don't want to come across as being desperate. Because if you, thank you for that reaction. If you connect with the recruiter and you connect with the VP and then you say, oh, let's see who else I can connect with. The recruiter could say, hey, did you see Jason connected with Steve Davis and Frank Smith and Harriet Jones? And he's all over the place. Maybe he's got a problem. We have that one chance to make that impression.
There's a balance between enthusiasm and desperation.
Precisely.
Fastlane Founders and Legacy with Jason Barnard. Each week, Jason sits down with successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and executives and get them to share how they mastered the delicate balance between rapid growth and enduring success in the business world. How can we quickly build a profitable business that stands the test of time and becomes our legacy? A legacy we're proud of. Fastlane Founders and Legacy with Jason Barnard.
A quick hello and we're good to go. Welcome to the show, Stephen Davis.
Thank you. I'm proud to be here.
Brilliant. I'm delighted to have you. Today we're going to be talking about career changes, career pivots, why a personal brand might be important for that, and how you can help yourself along on a career pivot, whatever level of a company you're at, but especially C-level. And for me, entrepreneurs is my favorite topic. But before that, I searched your name on Google, and your problem, if I may, is not necessarily a problem, but certainly there are a lot of famous people with the name Stephen Davis. And I found when I searched in Europe, a football player, a soccer player, and a snooker player.
Yes, I know the snooker player because I'm a big pool player here in the United States. So my namesake is a snooker champion in the UK.
Yeah. And we used to call him, when I was a kid, Boring Steve Davis. And that's not the case with you, is it?
No, thank you. I've got to go now. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Delightful introduction. But I think kind of one of the important things here from our perspective at CaddyCube is when you've got a popular name like Stephen Davis, you have a problem of ambiguity and competition that I don't think people really think about. And when you share a name with somebody famous like Stephen Davis, the footballer, or Steve Davis, the snooker player, you either have to become more famous than them, which I don't think is likely to happen, or you need to add something to your name, middle initial, middle name, or your industry, or something unique to make you stand out if your personal brand is important to you. But,
well, yes,
it's not always important. I always think it is. Is it important to you or not?
Extremely important. However, if a Google search is done with Stephen Davis coach, I'm going to show up. I don't think the football player would show up. Plus, with me, Jason, my priority is my business, Renaissance Solutions. And Renaissance was selected because it connotates new beginning. And that is more important to me than my name.
Right. 100%. And I think that's really important is I tend to get obsessed about dominating for your own name, and it isn't necessarily important. What is important, though, is that the machine, Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity understands who you are and what you do, who you can serve, and that you're trustworthy. And I mean, I've looked you up on ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is perfectly happy with you in your current circumstance.
So what a relief. Thank you.
The future is yours, Stephen. Tell me really quickly what you do and why you're qualified to talk about career pivots and why personal brand might be important in that.
Thanks for asking, Jason. I started my career as a recruiter, and I found that I was very successful in being able to present candidates to hiring managers because I scheduled anywhere from 10 to 20 interviews a week. And every recruiter's reputation is based on the quality of the candidates they send to decision makers, whether they're recruiters in human resources or they're actual hiring managers. So why am I qualified to do this? Spent over 20 years filling jobs at companies like Morgan Stanley, Shearing Plough, Johnson & Johnson, NBC Television, a lot of companies in entertainment, JP Morgan Chase, many other companies. And what I've learned along the way is that looking for a job, whether it's internally at someone's company or externally, it isn't about the job seeker. It isn't about the person that is interested in internal mobility. That's not what it's about. It's more about who's looking at someone's background, who's interviewing someone, and what decision makers want to see and what they want to sense and what they want to hear. So, what qualifies me, I believe, is my ability to have emotional intelligence sufficiently enough to understand what people's desires are, what motivates them, and what doesn't motivate them.
So we have a question there of presentation. I, as somebody who wants to pivot my career in one way or another, needs to present myself in a way that the person I'm presenting myself to appreciates emotionally and professionally. Does my presentation change depending on who I'm presenting myself to?
That's a great question. I don't think it does inherently.
Ah.
I don't, because we only have one chance to make a first impression. If you're presenting, from the time you start your presentation, whether you're on an interview or you're at a performance review or you're being considered for a promotion, the first 30 to 40 seconds of what comes out of your mouth is going to be analyzed from the person or people that you're talking to. And they're immediately trying to understand your behavior, your thinking, your motivation, your enthusiasm, your empathy. All these emotions come into play. And people are in their minds trying to visualize, is Jason going to fit in this role based on how he communicates?
Is it more about emotion than it is about professional qualifications?
It's both, Jason. It really is both. However, I can't tell you how many times I have presented when I was recruiting. I would never send more than 5 people for any job. If I didn't have anyone that I thought was a slam dunk and a guarantee getting, I wouldn't send anyone. So if the job description asks for certain requirements and experience, I would ask those questions during interviews. And if I had 4 people who had 90% or more of the qualifications that were required, and I had one person who only had 70%, however, that 70% person had the connection to me where the person was a good listener, was empathetic, was asking brilliant questions, I would invariably send all 5 of them, and I would always get a pushback from some manager or some director of HR saying, Steve, this is a C-level position. Why would you send someone? He doesn't have this. She doesn't have that. Why? And my answer was, because I know you're going to connect with the person. If you don't, I will never call you again. And more times than not, that person got the offer. To your point, you need the qualifications. You also need the connection.
But from what I hear there, and it's been my experience as well, is the connection is possibly more important in the sense that once you've got to the minimum possible level of being able to present yourself reasonably in a situation, it's the emotional aspect that's going to count the most. I had a thing when I was taking people on is if there was something in their CV that stood out that made me take a double look, that was slightly unusual or slightly adventurous or slightly cheeky, I would always interview them if they had the relevant qualifications, more or less, and that would come to the same thing. Would you advise that, or is that just me?
Everyone has their own style. Unfortunately, there's no university course on how to conduct interviews.
Done. Okay.
So, to your credit, I think it's working for you. Continue to do it.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now we've got to the stage where to get the interview, either I'm sending my CV and an application letter, or I'm going through somebody, a third party who's pre-sorting. But at some point I have to present myself on paper or online. What are the hugely important things that I need to do there? And what is the likelihood that the person on the other end is going to look me up on Google or ChatGPT or something similar?
Well, great question. You can be sure that you're going to be looked up on Google. There's going to be a background check done, and for sure, people are going to look you up on LinkedIn.
Right. So you've got
So,
LinkedIn. Is LinkedIn the number one and Google number two then?
well, for business networking and recruiters, by the way, live on LinkedIn, and hiring managers, in most cases, would not even schedule an interview unless they looked at the person's profile on LinkedIn.
So my priority, whatever level I'm at and whatever I'm trying to do, either pivot within a company or pivot from one company to another, is focus on LinkedIn number one, Google number two, ChatGPT would come a distant third.
I would say so, in my
Right.
humble opinion. Yes.
No, brilliant.
Because
And
because LinkedIn has 1 billion users according to,
Right.
their statistics after Microsoft bought them. Yep, 1 billion users. And every single day they have 100, I have it written down, 165 million people that are live on the platform daily.
Wow. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. So from that perspective, my personal brand, let's move on to personal brand, because we've decided that LinkedIn is number one, Google's number two, ChatGPT, you can put it aside for the moment. In the future, I think people are going to be looking at things like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Copilot, but that's me looking to the future, being a futurist. To what extent is my definition of my personal brand going to make a difference, and how do I express it on these platforms?
Your ability to express who you are, and as you say, your personal brand is everything. Because if you're looking to get a change in your career, and let's say you want to move to another company, recruiters are trained. They are the gatekeeper, as you know, between you and the hiring team. So they're trained to eliminate candidates. They are not trained to keep listening or reading or researching until they find what they're looking for. As soon as they sense that something doesn't read right, or it doesn't sound right, or it doesn't even seem like what they're looking for, the person is eliminated and they will never, ever know it. So the personal brand on LinkedIn, there's a headline section that's right under someone's name, and it has a maximum capacity of 220 characters. And that section is what recruiters use after they get a job. What they do is they're all trained to find the best available talent, and they're going to look in their database, and they're going to have resumes. They're going to have candidates. They're going to have CVs. They're all trained to go on LinkedIn and run a keyword search using the LinkedIn recruiters version. And that headline section is what's first utilized, searching for keywords in the job description. Then, to your point, there's an about section. That's the place where you can use first person. I'm very proud. You can't do that in a CV. It's not proper. So, I've been working for X amount of years. I've been accomplishing these achievements. It's a place where a manager and a recruiter can get some semblance of what someone's personality is like by what they're saying. And that's part of emotional intelligence, and it's part of executive presence, which is one of the hiring decisions, whether someone's up for a promotion, internal mobility, or they're looking to get an interview externally at another company.
Right. Oh, that makes me think of something. And I'm not doing promotion for a particular platform, but we have been using Human Linker. And what Human Linker does is analyze the LinkedIn profile and the feed and then do a DISC analysis. Is that something likely to happen today?
I would think that's very logical and probably very likely. It's a great point. Yes, I think so.
So beyond your profile, where you can say I'm proud. And I think that's a really good point, is I tell my team, don't say I'm the best at, or I did this and I'm super duper amazing. Say I'm very proud of what I achieved here, because nobody can say you're not proud, although they can say what you did was not brilliant. So that idea of I'm very proud, I love that term. But you also have to look after your feed and be careful about how you're expressing yourself, because your personality and character come out through that. And there are now tools that can analyze that.
That's right. And in a related topic, people post different ideas on LinkedIn. on Facebook, on Twitter, on X, everywhere. They post their thoughts. If, let's say, someone at IBM posts something and Jason Barnard wants to work at IBM.
Yeah.
And Jason disagrees with the person that wrote something on IBM's LinkedIn. And Jason says, thanks for your post, but I disagree. That's going to cause someone to look at your profile, the person that wrote the post. Much more than if Jason says, I agree with that. That's a great post. Thank you. Okay, big deal. But if someone disagrees, they're more inclined to look at your profile.
Right. But you've got to be careful about disagreeing from the perspective of if you're pitching to IBM and you think, okay, I'll put my candidature in and I've got some kind of notice in there. Now I'm going to start disagreeing with everything they say. You've got to be careful.
Right. I didn't say everything they say. And you're right. You have to be careful. It's one thing to say, I disagree. It's entirely different to say, I disagree. And here are the 3 reasons why.
Yeah. Brilliant. So LinkedIn is huge. So you've got your foot in the door with the CV. Then you've got LinkedIn where they're researching your personality and whether or not you would fit. And you've got in front of them, and there are techniques there. So we'll dig into that and then we'll look at Google. But other techniques where I can make sure that I'm standing in front of the right people at IBM and being noticed by them would be to identify the corporate structure and see who's above the person who's immediately talking to me. Would that be a good strategy, or is that jumping the gun?
Well, I would like to ask you one question before I answer that. Is there a job at IBM that you applied to and now you're looking at the structure to see where the bodies are buried?
Yeah, my theory here, the discussion is around the idea that I've applied to IBM for a high-level executive position.
Right.
And whoever's looking at my application profile knows who I am. Can I attract the attention of their boss and try to get the boss to interject, or is that a foolish and stupid thing to do?
I don't think there's anything wrong with attracting attention from their boss, especially if it's a high-level job. If it's a C-level position and you find maybe a chief operating officer who might be equal to or above the person that you want to interview, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What's the worst that could happen? You'll get no response.
Right. So, networking and using LinkedIn to network with the people within the company who are liable to talk to each other about this particular position, the more you're visible, the more you're mentioned, the more that they're aware of you, the better. But don't make negative impressions.
Correct. And I'd like to add one thing. You don't want to come across as being desperate. Because thank you for that reaction. If you connect with the recruiter and you connect with the VP and then you say, oh, let's see who else I can connect with. And you start going to, the C-level people and auxiliary people that might be connected to the hiring manager. They talk. The recruiter could say, hey, did you see Jason connected with Steve Davis and Frank Smith and Harriet Jones? He's all over the place. Maybe he's got a problem. We have that one chance to make that impression.
Right. It makes me think that there's a balance between enthusiasm and desperation.
Precisely.
Right. So you've got to hit that balance right. Now, you're talking about the first impression, so we can move on to that. I mean, for me, I keep talking about that Google result for your name is a kind of first impression. It's not the first impression somebody will have, because if they're searching your name and you pop up, then they know who you are. But it's their first impression of Google's opinion of you. And we use Google because we trust it. Therefore, Google's opinion of us is super important. What do you think of that theory?
Oh, you're setting me up for that one. I'm coaching a few people at Google.
Cool.
And yes, and I have been for quite a while. Let me suffice this to say that I don't believe everything I read. And I believe maybe 40% of what I hear.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep, it does. I mean, from my perspective, I mean, I assume you use Google, um, or maybe Bing, or maybe ChatGPT. But the idea of using one of these machines, one of these algorithms, these engines, is to get a solution to a problem or an answer to a question. And we use the one we trust the most. Let's not say trust 100%. So you're using the one you trust the most, and you're using it to find information. Can we tone it down a little bit? And would you agree that what Google, if you're using Google, what Google says about me, Jason Barnard, does matter a little bit?
Yeah.
Jolly good. That's, I was feeding you that question. You gave me the answer, the simplest answer. I love it. So if we can wrap all of that up with a career pivot, can you just summarize how I should approach it? Whether it's moving within a company upwards or from one company to another, I'm definitely trying to move up. What are my 3 or 4 steps that I need to really pay attention to?
Let's talk about internally first and then externally. So
Oh, okay. Super.
there's an old expression. In fact, my father, God rest his soul, he would always tell me, in order to be successful, Steve, it's not really what you know, it's who you know. Have you ever heard that expression?
I have, but not from your father.
Okay, well, that's very funny. The more I became involved in coaching, the more I realized that is not true.
Oh,
What is what you know is important. However, what's more important is who knows you.
ooh, I like that.
Internal mobility is a lot of work that I do. I coach groups of people in Fortune 500 companies and startups, and many, many people want to move up. And they ask me the same question you just did. How can I move up? Should I just contact every, Tom, Dick, and Harry? What do I do? It's who knows you. So if you're working at a company and you're Jason, you want to move up in the organization, whether you want to change your line of business where you're working, or you want to stay where you are and just receive a promotion with more compensation, more responsibility, have the decision makers make a list. Who has the authority to offer you a position? Who has the influencing ability to influence decision makers to consider Jason in the event that a position opens up that Jason's qualified for? That's your hit list. Then go on the company's org chart. Look at all the people that these senior level, C-level people have reporting to them. Read what they write about themselves on the org chart, on the About Me page in the company. Knowledge is power. So you want to move to, a different part of the firm, start to communicate with people that could potentially hire you or recommend that you be considered, and simply IM them or email them. Companies love to brag about a win. IBM, we just won, we just sold this, we just introduced this new, technology. It's going lot. Look the people up that had something to do with this press release and message them internally. I just noticed you had a big win. You don't know me. I don't know you. I just wanted to congratulate you.
Oh, right. Okay.
Great job. Now, some people are curious. They would say, who is this Steve? I don't know Steve. Gonna look him up. And then you won. They know who you are. So that's my executive coaching methodology for internal mobility.
Brilliant.
Increase your visibility, increase your awareness.
Make sure the right people know you.
Yes. And also, your line manager must understand that you're a leader and not just a manager. As you know, Jason, there's a big difference.
Yes.
Managers are task managers. Hey, Steve, did you do this job? I asked you to do this 3 weeks ago. How's it going? A leader is, Steve, how's it going? Do you need my help? Is there any area that you need some support on? Are you facing any obstacles? Let's talk about it. demonstrating your ability to communicate in a way that is emotionally intelligent, because the first two pillars of emotional intelligence are self-awareness and awareness of others. So if Jason is aware that Jason knows what he's doing, he's a leader, then everyone he contacts or communicates with is going to sense that he is a leader because Jason is putting it out there in the universe.
Right. Absolutely. And that also goes for moving externally.
It does. It does. However, moving externally is a lot more challenging because you're competing against who knows how many other candidates for positions. So there's a whole other equation involved in external mobility. And the focal point is, like we discussed a minute ago, not to come across as being desperate.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw this position. I'm great for it. And you write a cover letter. I'm so excited. I really want it. And then a lot of people on LinkedIn, they have this open to work, which LinkedIn
Right.
provides people. Huge mistake.
Right.
Huge mistake. It could be misinterpreted as being desperate.
Okay.
So, yeah. So externally, you have to follow the process. It's important to apply to the job, to get your resume, to get a high score when it's scanned in an applicant tracking system.
Yep.
And to follow up and to contact people. Who are the decision makers? You can find all this out by asking your friend Google. It's easy.
Yep, my friend Google. And I think that's the big one from this perspective is people don't follow up. They think, well, the person's going to contact me because I'm obviously so brilliant. And people don't see your brilliance in your CV. That personality aspect that you talked about and the fact that emotional and personality traits are going to be hugely important simply don't come up in a CV. They don't come across in a CV. So nobody will know who you are truly until you follow up or they've looked you up on LinkedIn. But following up is hugely important. I think people feel that they don't need to or feel embarrassed. What would you say to those people?
I would say that it's not about them. It's not about feeling embarrassed. It's not about feeling outside your comfort zones. If you want the job, you've got to follow up because that is the last chance you have to reinforce your candidacy for the position, whether it's internal or it's external. And when I was recruiting, anytime I saw an email from someone following up with me from my interview, and they ended with, "I look forward to hearing from you." This person,
Yeah.
not good, not good.
That is the perfect place to end it because that last line, "I'm looking forward to hearing from you," is such a killer. Thank you so much, Stephen. That was brilliant. You get the outro song. A quick goodbye to end the show. Thank you, Stephen.
Jason, thank you. I'm gonna if you go on the road, I'm gonna buy tickets.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Your corporate and personal brands are what Google and AI say they are. We can give you back control. CaliCube.